That leaves us to 11. Action is necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. Do I have a motion for, can we put A and B together, Dr. Milton? Since they're both employment items, or should they be separate? Oh, I got you, okay. We'll take a motion, Mr. Lovelace, for.
I make a motion that we approve the selected employment items as discussed in executive session under Exhibit A.
Do I have a second? Ms. Gardner seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Hogan? 7-0, thank you. Any other motions?
I have to make one. I make the motion that we authorize the district administration to send a letter to the town of Chapin concerning the Amix Ferry Elementary School sewer line matter.
Is there a second? Ms. Hines seconds, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Now, item 12 is approval of proposed 2021-2022 school calendar as seen in Exhibit C. Dr. Milton, do you want to say anything to that?
Ms. Hammond, the board heard the presentation last meeting. There have not been any changes that Ms. Goggins and team have received, so this is the same calendar tack. We're looking for the board's feedback tonight, whether there's approval for this or continued work.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Ms. Hines?
I'll make a motion that the board approves proposed 2021-2022 school year calendar in Exhibit C.
Is there a second? Mr. Hogan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 7, and those opposed, 0. Item 13, second reading approval of revisions to policy BDE, board committees, Exhibit D. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the second reading of revisions to policy BDE, board committees.
Do I have a second? Ms. Gardner seconds. Now, discussion. Since you made the motion, Ms. Huddle, you want to say anything to that?
No.
All right. Well, all those in favor? Do you have a discussion? Sure.
Yes, please. I just want to say that I'm still concerned by this board policy. I think it's not that I don't agree that we need the board committee's policy revised. I just feel like we haven't even had a true first reading. I would like for us to read it on the record if we're going to do a second reading. I know I've learned recently in an email that we actually paid the School Board Association to revise our board policies, and I just saw it for the first time in the last week that we have addressed board committees, or the School Board Association has put forth a best practices policy based upon our existing policy. I think that this policy that we are voting on tonight, it doesn't state a purpose of committees. It doesn't provide safeguards within the text. I am specifically concerned that it removes advisory committees, and I would like clarification as to what that means, whether or not that means that we're removing the superintendent's advisory committees. Specifically, I've served on one, a business advisory committee. I know that there's a parent advisory committee, faculty advisory committees. I haven't received any information about that. I've asked Dr. Melton whether or not her existing advisory committees that she has already would be removed. She doesn't really know whether or not those fall under this policy. So I would just like some clarification as to that.
Well, I'll give you some clarification.
Okay.
When we first discussed this, before there was any vote, it was on the discussion agenda, and I think Mr. White actually provided one that was it Fort Mill, that he shared with Ms. Huddle, and I think you did some research on that, and I do know that it's a policy. I do know from the School Boards Association that we have this policy here, and it's very common to adopt one from another from another school district, because they actually write them all. So I feel like that this is very plain and simple. It's not some total disregard for what we've been doing. So with that being said, I'd like to, okay, I'm gonna call for the vote, but you can
Well,
have 2
I'm
minutes.
gonna make a motion too, but I'm gonna make a discussion point first.
Okay.
For-
Is it an amendment to this motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but the first is, I did, in one of our early sessions, I recommended we have the School Board Association come and talk to us about best practices, and particularly the ramifications of committees. And you said, well, anybody can call Scott Price, so I did. And he told me he was gonna call you after I got off the
did
phone with him.
talk to him.
And his invitation was, I can sit here and critique or talk about issues in a policy, but it's really better if everybody on your board hears it at the same time, or you have a committee, a core group of people that can hear it and receive it, because everybody's going to receive the information differently. And so the invitation, I don't know, I didn't hear you bring this up, but I think he said, I'll call Jan and tell her that. And even if it's after this committee's passed, it's people who, and he's not going to charge anything, okay? This is a free service. He would come to this meeting, and he said people could write their questions down, and then you get the benefit of people who spend all their time helping people with policies and see the issues, et cetera. The one question he did raise about the advisory committees, you need to understand why that was in your original policy. I don't know the answer to that. And so I echo what Ms. Hines was saying, that I think we should not disregard that, and we ought to have that and let people, particularly people who haven't even been in board training yet. I mean, they've been on this board 2.5 months. That being said, I would like to make a motion, okay? And
Is it an amendment, because we have a motion on the floor?
an amendment to this,
Okay.
okay. And this, the amendment is that we insert a sentence in the 3rd paragraph that says, the board shall define the objectives of the committee, of any such committee, and the tenure of the committee. And if anybody's second, I'll tell you what I'm trying to do.
All right, say that. Will you say it one more time?
Okay,
I heard
that
the
in the
first part.
3rd paragraph,
Yeah,
after the first sentence, insert the sentence, the board shall define the objective of any such committee and the tenure of such committee.
and tenure, okay, that was the word I missed. All right, do I have a second for
I'll
that
second.
amendment? Okay, all
I'll second.
right, all those in
Well, I
favor?
was gonna, do you want me to?
You want to speak to it, yeah?
I mean, the point was, in
But
talking with
2
Scott,
minutes.
they said under Robert's Rules of Procedure, that's what would happen anyway. And so part of policies is illuminating for board members what to do. But what this would require is the board decide, if you're going to appoint a committee, the board decide, okay, this is the objective and this is the time that it'll stay in place. And I think that's consistent with what this policy is intended to do.
You want to speak to that? Ms. Hunt?
Well, first of all, again, for the umpteenth time, this is the policy that you recommended, and it doesn't say that. But second of all, what you're asking is completely inconsistent with the policy wording, because the policy wording says the chairman may appoint special committees. So now you're going to get into the full board trying to decide what they should do and how long they should last, and I don't even know how you can do that in advance, because depending on what the subject is, how do you know how long the tenure is going to be? So,
Okay. And I'd like to say that you mentioned a conversation with Mr. Price, and I did have that, and he talked about, we didn't talk about this vote, but he simply said he would be glad to have someone that's his policy person have a workshop for us, and you're right, it doesn't cost, and they could not do that before March. And so I think this is important for us to get these committees set up so we can start work, and then we'll also have training before we probably moved on anything. So I don't see a need for that. Mr. Hogan?
More so question and clarity on it. Ms. Huddle, this might be more your expertise. Does this revised wording, does it remove our superintendent from having any of her own advisory councils?
I don't believe so. I mean, the policy is board committees. It is
Correct.
not superintendent's committees. And again, it is verbatim Fort Mills policy.
This is just about the board, as my understanding, not, she can still have committees. Yes, Ms. Gardner?
Yeah, I mean, I want to clarify that her advisory committees are not board committees, so that doesn't affect this at all. It doesn't affect that. And I don't want that to be confused. It's her advisory committees. The board members don't even go to those committee meetings, so they can't be board unless we're invited, of course, which I don't know if we are. I haven't been to one. But I just wanted to also point out that Scott Price did say that we needed a committee to talk about our policies. So we have to pass this one so we can fix all of our policies. I'm just going to, that's all I
Thank you,
wanted to
Ms.
say.
Gardner. That is true. All right, let's vote on that amendment, so we won't be here.
Well, let me add
Okay,
one more
2 minutes,
comment to
Mr.
Ms. Huddle's
White.
point.
Okay.
My insertion doesn't change the meaning of this policy, and just because I propose we look to Fort Mills doesn't mean I can't propose an amendment to it, and it fills a need. You can appoint people, assuming they're going to serve, but at the same time, you know, the board define the objective so that we ensure that the objective is something meaningful, and number two, that there's a time period. I mean, if you say you want to appoint a committee, well, what is it going to do? I mean, we ought to know what it's going to do, not just appoint it. That's the purpose.
Well, I would hope that we would make all that clear even without it in the,
I know, and you know what? I would hope the board would vote on that too. That's the.
well, let's vote on it. That's a good
Okay.
suggestion. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion, raise your hand. That's 3. All those opposed? That's 4. So the motion, the amendment fails. Now we're back to the original motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, that's 5. And those opposed, 2. So the motion carries. Okay, next. And I do agree that we will get guidance and training from the School Board Association. Oh, I've done that twice.